Good morning and welcome to today's Almost Daily Devotional. We are going to be in John chapter 6. This is the 51st verse. I am the living bread that came down from heaven, and whoever eats this bread will live forever. And the bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh. Then the Jews debated among themselves, asking, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? Jesus said to them, I assure you, unless you eat the flesh of the human one and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. My flesh is true, and my blood is true drink. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them. As the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so whoever eats me lives because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven. It isn't like the bread your ancestors ate, and then they died. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. Jesus said these things while he was teaching in the synagogue in Capernaum. It's a weird passage for us Protestants, right? So we don't talk about Jesus' body and blood as part of communion. We don't literally think it's Jesus' flesh, and we don't literally think it's Jesus' blood that we're drinking. And maybe that's probably because it's kind of icky. It's kind of an icky thing to think about. We're much more comfortable with the idea of bread being symbolic and the wine being symbolic of Jesus's eternal blessings, right? And he knows, I think, that this doesn't make sense to people. That this doesn't make any sense. He says this all over and over and over again in John. I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. Eat me and you will never die. I am the bread that gives eternal life. Come to me and you will never be hungry. He says this all the time. And I think that he gets that we don't understand, and we're not going to understand. And then we don't really know what happens in this process. John Calvin, the great 16th century reformer, always referred to communion, and what happens in communion is the divine mystery, the most sacred of mysteries. And the truth is, we don't know. We don't know the process. We don't understand the spiritual, mechanical, chemical process of whatever happens in communion. But we don't need to, because that's not the point. Jesus is not talking literally about bread, and Jesus is probably not literally talking about his blood and his body. He's talking about the gift of life that is offered from heaven. This is bread that's being offered to you. And Jesus promises that it gives us eternal life. And whether the bread turns into Christ's body when we eat it, or it just stays bread and Christ is present through the Spirit, the truth of the matter is that when we receive communion, that when we receive the bread, when we drink the wine, we're doing it in a way that offers us eternal life. We're doing it that way because God says, this is my body, and I'm giving it to you. I'm sacrificing myself for you. And so maybe we need to worry less about the mechanics of the whole process and live into the mystery of what God offers to us in the bread and in the wine.